All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight and welcome to our first team gameplay webinar of the Into the Deep season. My name is Erin Fadden. I'm a project manager with First Tech Challenge. And on the call with me is Mark Edelman. He's our expert for the night. Mark, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, Mark Edelman. I'm the program delivery partner for First Tech Challenge in Northern California, but also a part of the game design committee. Got to have the fun of helping to put this game together. And as part of that responsibility, I serve as the chief referee for First Tech Challenge. So we're here to try to chat through and figure out what questions you have and see what we can figure out how to answer for you.
And so these calls are set up specifically for teams, so for students and for coaches to be able to call in and ask questions about the game. So this is very specific to the game and gameplay. How do you play the game? So I just want to be clear that if we do have volunteers on the call, please feel free to hang out and to listen, but we do want to make sure that we're focusing on team-specific questions in order to help them get prepared for competition. So one thing I do just want to go through really, really quickly is that some of you may or may not know is that we have had a lot of changes this season. We have a very new format. So some of you might be new to First Tech Challenge and some of you might be veteran teams that have been around for a little bit. So you'll notice the change. If you're new, great, welcome. But I do just want to really quickly take a minute to just show you all where to find the resources that you're going to need in order to help you be successful this season. So first of all, here's the firstinspires.org webpage. If we go to First Tech Challenge, Game and Season, and then we navigate over to the game materials, this is where you're going to find the competition manual. And the competition manual is basically everything that you need to know in order to get prepared for a competition. This covers your all the game rules, what the game is, the game rules, what you should expect in showing up to the competition, what you need to, how you need to build your robot, et cetera, et cetera. And this year, we actually have a process where we are updating this manual on a bi-weekly, which is twice a month basis. So as we get feedback on this manual and figure, out if there are places that are confusing, conflicting, that we may need to make changes, this is going to be released on a bi-weekly basis. So the new manual, or the most current version of the manual, was actually updated today at noon. And the way that we actually track those is through what we call team updates. So the manual and the team update release at the exact same time. And what this team update is for, this was released today, Team Update 2. This is going to show you everything that was updated in the competition manual in that full guide, right? And the way that this format works is that, you'll see a part, here's the section that was updated. And any text that was taken away from or taken out of the manual, you'll see this strike through, right? So that including word was taken away. And then the text that was added will be highlighted. And so it just points you to the right direction of, okay, I know that things might have changed. It shows you where it changed and it shows you exactly what changed. So you can make sure that you keep up to date with any of the changes that are made throughout the season. And we do have a place where, and you do have to be 18 plus to sign up for this, but you do have an opportunity to receive these team updates. So as we publish these every 2 weeks, you can get an email. So you'll just click that team updates. You can sign up here and you'll receive an email notification when those team updates come through. I think that was the only thing that I really did want to cover before we dive in. It's already so played out. But yeah, so the only other thing is that I do want to say that these calls, they're not an official training call. They're put together as a way for teams and coaches to ask questions of our experts. So this is really all about you. So please feel free to ask questions. There's two ways you can do that. You can either raise your hand and I can go ahead and call on you. I'll unmute you, you'll unmute yourself, and you can ask your question out loud. The other way that you can ask a question is by going to the Q&A section and typing your question there. I'll read your question out loud to the group, and we'll answer that for the entire group. So yeah, I just want to be clear that, as I mentioned, there are a lot of new things this year, so especially for returning. Actually, Mark, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what to expect for returning teams. Like,
I've been telling everybody, forget everything you knew and just start over. There's so much that's changed. Trying to make assumptions about what you knew and what's changed from what you knew is gonna at some point lead you to making a wrong decision that's going to get you in trouble somehow. So it's even one of the things I do is help train all the referees, and I've been telling them the same. Don't compare this game to past seasons. Start over, learn it, read it. Right? What is it? Forget everything, read everything. Right?
absolutely.
Assume nothing. Read everything.
Yes.
That's the one.
All right. So again, we don't have any specific content, but if you do have questions, please feel free to ask them. Actually, I can cover something else while we're waiting for questions. I don't like saying there's no such thing as a stupid question, but I do believe that. Like, if you have questions, please ask, because more likely than not, there is someone else on this call that has that same question that you have. And so it would really be helpful for everyone. Someone asked me if I could share the link to the game manual. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share this page, because this is a really important page that you should bookmark. This is the game and season page. So that has the manual, but it also has the team updates. And it's got a lot of other playing field materials, how to build the field, April tags are here, the Q&A system, which is actually what I want to talk about right now. So each team has access to our FTC Q&A system. Every team has one account that can ask questions on our Q&A. And the instructions for that are actually right here on how to create the account on the Q&A and access that. And then you can go to my bookmark for this is terrible because it's not the right one. Okay. Well, this is the homepage. So this kind of gives you a preamble of how we answer questions, making sure that you read the competition manual, ask yourself a couple of questions, and then, when we answer questions, etc. But you'll be able to ask questions here and receive official answers. So, looks like, oh, Manny just sharing something helpful. Yes, so this call is specific to game rules. So we're focusing on, here we are, the Into the Deep game. How do you play? Do you have strategies that you have questions about? Do you have rules that you're not sure of? Now I'm like, just keep swimming because I keep looking at Dory. Thanks, Mark. All right. Please talk about the 20 by 42 rule for the expansion of the robot.
Probably the most commonly asked question. It's confused a lot of people. So during robot inspection at your events, the inspectors will have some sort of a rectangle. They'll ask you to set your robot up in that rectangle and extend all of your extensions. So At that point, that now defines the envelope that your robot has to live within for all of its match play. And that rectangle effectively now stays fixed with respect to the robot, right? So as you're extending different mechanisms on your robot, if the rectangle has to move with respect to the core of the robot in order for the extensions to, in your opinion, stay legal, they're not, right? The rectangle itself stays with a fixed relationship to the core of the robot.
Yeah, and there's some examples here, but what we're actually working on right now is creating a new resource that instead of these kind of still animations that are helpful, but we're working on some like pretty simple animations that we hope to launch next week that will help to even better define what that means. I think they're definitely going to be helpful to teams, to volunteers.
Right.
So this question, I'm not sure if I understand the game animation properly, but is the autonomous and teleop segments playing the same game, meaning meaning samples are to be placed in 2 baskets and specimens can be made and hung?
Essentially, yes. The difference is who's controlling the robot during those time periods. In the initial 30 seconds, it's all based on pre-programmed behaviors, no human control. The last 2 minutes, now the humans can take over and can drive. Essentially, though, it is the same game.
Yeah, and I think the only difference would be it's not really end game, but towards the end of the match would be the ascending points that ends up providing a different challenge, right? Of like at the end of the match, you want to try and get to the highest place that you can to receive the highest points. We do have a hand up, Patrick. I think I have to unmute you. I do. So I unmuted you. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, just a quick question on Auton point scoring. Are the points you score in Auton rescored again during teleop? Like if you score a specimen in teleop or in Auton, you get 10 points in that, and then another 10 points for teleop, or is it just the one time? It's kind of ambiguous. Wasn't really sure.
They score again.
Great. And I think what screwed me up, just so you know, is I tried the online scoring calculator, and it was not rescoring those. I'm not sure if that was intended or so.
We asked this question of the scoring developers, the people who do the FTC Live scoring system, and their answer was that we want to keep it with the doubling. There's some complexities to it because what happens if you descore something?
Right, so, understood. And that's great. I just wanted to understand. Thank you.
And I don't know if the intent was to have that scoring calculator actually calculate that. I'm not entirely sure. So I just wrote that down. I don't play with it often. So. Okay. Q&A. We have some more. I know it's probably a little bit tough in the season right now because you are gearing up for competition, right? You haven't actually competed yet. Don't know if you're building robots, if you're practicing. So it's a little bit harder when you're not completely in the thick of competition to come up with questions. But let's see, I do have a hand up. Assem, I will unmute you and just unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. So we are a Rocket team, so but there is no dumb question. So if you go to the pages that you show, where is it show the horizontal space, like you're showing a page now which is showing position A, position B, and then position C, and position C is the one that we should not. If you go down one more, so this one, perfect. So in the middle row. So let's say position A, position B, but the robot can do such a movement, but we will control it and constrain it programmatically. So it doesn't do this movement, like it can do that, but we will control it and constrain it programmatically. It doesn't do such an action. Is that like if we're showing them the robot and the robot can extend maybe longer, but programmatically we constrain that and have these kind of restrictions? Is this a valid or still not valid?
And this talks about right here, robots with mechanisms capable of the rotation should ensure the rotation is restricted to remain inside the boundary defined during inspection. So as long as you do have a stop to that, then that would be okay.
But that has to be added to the robot as a component or mechanically, or if we say it's a programmatically is constrained, is that good enough?
You would have to demonstrate that as part of inspection that it is constrained to that boundary.
Awesome. That's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Okay, I have a hand up from Melissa. So if you go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the differences and how to qualify for a state competition this year as opposed to last year. A lot of people have said it's very different. I'm only a second year team, so I can't quite see the difference. I don't understand it.
There's a minor difference in the advancement order. So if you look in the competition manual and search for advancement, there's a little bit of a change up in how the advancement from one level of event to the next works. It's just a slight reordering. In years past, it went Inspire, Captain the Winning Alliance, Second Inspire, Pick on the Winning Alliance. Those last two have been reversed. So it's Winning Inspire, Captain the Winning Alliance, Pick on the Winning Alliance, Second Inspire. So just a reordering of that. It's essentially very similar, not a whole lot of difference. The other thing that's very different is the playoff structure. It is no longer a best of three. It is now a double elimination system. So that'll be something that'll feel a little new when you get to your events.
Okay, thank you. So we're getting some questions about judging, and I think that so I pulled this up on my screen, and the reason I did this is that so this call is really intended for everything game related, right? So like what you're building your robot to compete in the Into the Deep challenge, like the scoring, what the rules are of the game. We do actually have a separate call. It's called Rookie Team Resources. You don't need to be a rookie to call in. Just want to be clear. I'll actually go ahead and I'll put this in here for you, but this is more like a catch-all if you want to talk about judging, if you want to talk about inspection. This is actually something that we're introducing this year to help with a lot of those questions. So I hope that helps. All right. So then we have a question. All right. Sorry, I almost skipped over one. The robots have to be touching the wall at the start. Do the robots have to be in any particular place on the wall?
There's places they can't be. So they can't be in the net or in the observation zone. But beyond that, any position along the wall that satisfies the not in those two places and in contact with the wall works.
Here. So when does robot contact become pinning? How much blocking or contact can happen before it becomes pinning with a foul?
The pinning actually has to involve trapping a robot against something else in a way that prevents that robot from being able to move. So it's just not a matter of contact. There is always effectively 3 objects involved: the pinning robot, the pinned robot, and something that serves as a squeeze point, a pinch point. Beyond that, it's the pretty straightforward here. The pinning count starts when pinning is observed. It gets to 5 seconds, then fouls are awarded.
Someone asked how they sign up for the rookie meeting. So I did just put the link there, and you should be able to, from there, click on the link that says register here, and you'll be able to register for the call that way. Let's see, Melissa, looks like you have your hand up. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
I feel like I have like a million questions, but okay. So for the hanging of the robot, the video shows kind of a crawling mechanism thing, but is it possible to for your robot to reach to the top of the bar, the very top bar, and then pull itself up, probably touching the middle bar during that process, and then hang above the middle bar at the end? So it's not touching the middle bar, but it's like it knocks into it because of how the robot is built.
That would not qualify for a level 3 ascent, because the robot made simultaneous contact with the high rung and the playing field tiles. Right, so that you're not allowed to contact the high rung until you're no longer contacting the playing field.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is if I want to go on the high rung, I have to get off the floor first.
Yep.
Okay. So if I wanted to go to the middle rung, can I reach to the middle rung and then pull myself off the floor and have that count?
Yes.
Okay. So as long as I'm on the middle rung and I'm no longer, my robot is no longer touching like even the little metal like border at the bottom, right?
It uses the word support, not touch, right? So general advice we tend to give people is, if you can make it obvious and unambiguous that it's not supported, that's to your benefit. But the word it uses is support, not touch. You have to be effectively fully supported by the low rung.
And will you bear with me for one more question? So when I know I should not compare it to last year's game, so I'm doing what you told me to do. But last year's game, there was like crossover where if I wanted to get to my human player, I had to go clear across that field. And I feel like this year, I could literally never go to the other side of the field. Am I missing something? Like, is there something over there? Like, if I'm a Blue Alliance, is there something over there in that red zone that I need to be concerned about that I don't know about?
Well, take a look at the picture on the screen and the way the samples are distributed in the submersible. That's a nice random distribution. There are red samples on both sides of the field. There are blue samples on both sides of the field. So yeah, there is some one-sidedness to the way the gameplay will start, but I'm expecting by the time we get to high caliber matches, that if you're not traveling to the far side of the submersible, you're going to miss out on collecting some of the samples that you might want. So I think it'll start off, and the gameplay will evolve.
Okay, and but whether I put a yellow or if I'm a Red Alliance, a red specimen, or the yellow or the red doesn't matter, right? In terms of points.
It depends on where you're scoring them. So in the net,
of course.
The net and the baskets, yes, that's true. But if you're making specimens, it has to be the Alliance color.
Okay, but if I put a yellow or I'm a Red Alliance red in one of the baskets, it's the same points.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question.
Nope. Somebody else likely had the same question. They're just not brave enough to ask.
Yeah, if you have any more, I think we might have one Q&A, but if I'm happy to give you the floor if you have any other questions.
No, you can let someone else go first.
Okay.
Thank you.
We might have a Q&A. Loading. Please hold.
Yeah.
Oh, technology. Oh. Told me something was there, but there is not. Okay. All right, Melissa, go ahead.
Okay. Then I'll just keep going. I'll be
Yeah.
the brave one. Hopefully people aren't bored. So, all right. So my robot's hanging. We're on the middle rung and we're not supported by the bottom rung. And then my alliance team comes in and they're going for that top rung. Whatever ends up happening, like they're failing, right? They're not doing well at whatever they were trying to do. And like totally like knocks my robot around. I guess like I would lose points, right? Like if they knock me enough and I'm being supported by the bottom, I've lost points, right?
If you're supported by something other than the low rung, that would no longer satisfy the criteria for a level 2 ascent.
But the space is technically big enough for 2 robots in terms of like how big your robot is supposed to be.
It's 4 feet.
Yeah, so I mean, we shouldn't really mess with each other, theoretically.
We are working with children here, so.
Yes, I understand. Okay. All right, then that makes sense. And then, so then the other question I have is on the, we'll just talk Blue Alliance for a minute, just for consistency. So I'm on the Blue Alliance, and on the one side, there's the 3 yellow, I think we're calling them specimens at that point.
Yep.
And then there's 3 blue specimens.
Yep.
And then on the other side, you got the red and the yellow. So there, as a game strategy, would I be able to go take any of those that I wanted, even if it wasn't my color?
So 2 different potential consequences. If you do that during the autonomous period, you're going to get cited for autonomous interference. So moving any of the pre-placed samples on the opposing alliance's half of the field will generate fouls. During all period, the whole match, control of the opposing alliance's samples will similarly generate fouls.
Got it. Okay. But could I, okay, so I'm on Blue Alliance and there's 3 yellows on red side. Are those fair game?
After the end of the autonomous period, yes. Before the end of the autonomous period, you would get I believe it's a foul, major foul, for each one you moved.
Okay, got it. It's really cute how you keep saying autonomous, because our autonomous is so simple. We ain't gonna touch any samples during that. All right, and then so now we're in the middle of teleop, right? And I'm going for inside the submersible. I'm going for my blue or a yellow sample, but I grab a red because they're kids, right? That's still a foul because it's red, right?
So there's some forgiveness for those kinds of situations within the submersible. And even outside, there's a time limit. You need to control it for longer than momentary, right? So you watch, there's a couple of keywords you'll see it sprinkled a lot. Momentary, that means 3 seconds or more, or greater than momentary, 3 seconds. Repeated, more than twice. Continuous, more than 10 seconds, right? So there's a handful of places that you'll find those. So even though controlling the opposing alliance's samples, there's a greater than momentary. So you have, even out in the general field, you have 3 seconds to get rid of it.
Okay, and if I'm digging around inside the submersible looking for my blue or a yellow, can I knock the red ones out of my way?
So that's a little harder to give you a definitive answer. That's going to depend a lot on what the referees see and observe. So if what they observe is that effectively you're moving them further away from the red alliance, they might consider that a violation of 424. You're effectively shutting down gameplay by making the game harder for the opposing alliance.
Got it. And will all those samples inside the submersible be flat, or could some of the samples be like on top of themselves?
There's no guarantee of any particular orientation. They could be standing on end, they could be leaning on each other, they could be stacked. There is going to be some sort of an effort during the field setup for each of the matches to try to make sure that there's a good distribution, but there's not going to be an orientation check.
Got it. And if there's like, I'm going for blue and there's a red one kind of on top of it, like the red is like angled on top of the blue, I can knock that off though, because I'm going for the blue. Okay. Yes. But just like not deliberately, or it shouldn't look like I'm deliberately moving it away from someone else.
Yeah, and deliberate and intentional are, in general, words you won't find a lot in the game manual, in the competition manual. They are things that are observed by the people around the field, and they're watching the gameplay. They're looking at how the interactions between the alliances are working, and they're trying to keep the gameplay fair.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. All right, and we did get a couple questions in the Q&A. So the definition of blocking doesn't appear in this year's competition manual. Does this change allow more defense?
In last year's manual, the blocking rules didn't prevent defense. They just constrained it. So there still are similar rules, right? 424 that I mentioned is strategies aimed at shutting down gameplay. There's a lot of the flavor of our old blocking access rules and trapping rules in that set of languages. So make sure you read that, make sure you understand it. It's there. Defense has always been a part. It's always a little risky. In general, the rules are written a little bit to bias towards the offensive side of gameplay. It's really easy if you don't, a stalemated game with not a lot of activity and not a lot of gameplay kind of isn't very exciting. It's nice to see the offensive side and the struggle for earning and gaining.
Great. So another question here. As a rookie team and never having experience with it, can you please explain the April tags and what exactly they're for and what they do? Is it really only to help during autonomous periods that robots know where it is on the field, or is there more to it?
The way that this year's game is set up, they are effectively just landmarks. So the April tag provides a unique ID back to the code running in the robot. So camera of a robot samples an April tag. They pass it into a routine within the robot. They get back, that's April tag. I don't remember the numbers of them. That's April tag 7. And so now you know by definition where April tag 7 is on the playing field. So with a little bit of math within the robot, you can now do what's called localize. You can know where the robot is, what orientation the robot's in. It provides a whole bunch of good information back. What the teams do with it really is up to the teams. Some teams may decide they want to use it during the autonomous period. Some teams may use it to help their robot be sort of self-aligning and self-navigating to some extent during the driver control period, the teleop period, right? So it's really up to the teams what they do with that technology. It's a tool there for them to use as they see fit.
Someone had mentioned that they see the game manual is divided into sections in the resource library, but where can I find the complete manual? So this, I don't think I put this in here. Can I put it in the chat? No, it's off. Okay, I already learned that. Never mind. Just putting this post into the Q&A. So this is definitely a one-stop shop for everything that you're going to need. So the full competition manual is right here in this big button. So that's actually what I'm scrolling through right now. And you are correct that the competition manual is broken out into sections. And basically what this allows is that, I'll give you an example today. We did a new release where we updated section 6, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that allows you to just reference that one section. If you wanted a printed copy, you could just print off that one section, put it back in with the rest of your manual, be done with it. But the full competition manual is right up on the top right here. All right. What other questions do we have? Will this session be recorded and posted? Yes, it will be. So please hold. While I pull up YouTube. That video always plays right when you get to the YouTube channel for First Tech Challenge. So I'm just posting the link really quickly, but this is our YouTube channel. And in here, we're going to have a playlist where it will show the recorded team calls for the season. So these are all recorded and put on our YouTube channel. And, oh, did I just get rid of that? Okay, so we don't have a call next month, but I'll also put this in the chat as well, or the Q&A section. Oh no, I already did, because these are all the team calls. So you can register for any of these, right? So we have the Dean's List calls if you were interested in that. We just had our first one last night. We'll have another one in November. But then also, as I mentioned, the rookie team resources calls. And so these are all very, very similar Q&A formats. If we have any great updates that we would like to share at the top of the hour, we'll do that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just it's just Q&A. It's just whatever questions the community has. This is the format for you to have those questions answered. How do we get to the playlist for FTC? So that's the main page. Hold on, let me play around with this first. I'm not. So every time. So you can actually go to the created playlist right here and you can actually subscribe. And I'll get updated here. All right. So we do have, I think, about 15 minutes left. We do have 15 minutes left. So now is your chance. If you've got questions, please raise your hand, type in the Q&A. Do I need to attend the rookie team to get my, hold on. I think that's engineering design document. I think that might be referencing the engineering portfolio. There's two ways you can do that. One, you can attend the call if you would like and ask your question there. As I'd mentioned before, we do have the, we do have the Q&A. Every team has one official Q&A account where you can ask those questions so that you don't have to wait for a call in order to get those questions answered. So as mentioned, the instructions are here. Again, this is something I can put in the chat. This is how you would register, and then you'd be able to access the, oh, I have too many windows open again. Bananas. My curse. And then you'll be able to ask a question in the Q&A. Give it a few more minutes. If no one else has any questions, we can end a little bit early, give you some time back, but I just want to make sure that give you plenty of time to ask questions if you have them. Sorry. One more minute, going once, going twice. All right, well, I guess we can wrap up then. Thank you all so much for joining tonight. I hope you found it useful. I know it's a little bit of a different format, and we're really, really early in the season, so I understand that as we progress, generally these calls tend to, we tend to get a lot more questions, especially as teams start to play. As mentioned, there isn't a call next month, but our next call will be Thursday, December 5th. Please feel free to register for that at the same time. And again, I'm a little bit on repeat, but it is important that you all understand each team has that access to the Q&A. So you don't have to wait from call to call to get your questions answered. You can do that using the Q&A. That's why it's there. So please make sure to use that resource. And yeah, Mark, thank you so much for joining. Any parting words of wisdom?
Have fun and keep asking questions.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Mark, so much for answering questions tonight. Thank you all so much for joining. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see you back, but have a fantastic season. Thank you so much.
Enjoy.
Yeah. Good night, all.
Good night.